Some who are short-sighted pseudo-philosophers are fond of pointing to the fact that no one can become rich merely by saving a few dollars a week. This may be true enough as far as the reasoning goes, which is not very far. But the other side of the story is that the savings of even a small sum of money places one in position where oftentimes this small sum may enable one to take advantage of business opportunities, which lead directly and quite rapidly to financial independence. The table showing what a saving of $5 a month will amount to at the end of 10 years should be copied and pasted on your mirror, where it will stare you in the face every morning when you get up and every night as you retire, providing you have not already acquired the habit of systematic saving of money. This table should be reproduced in letters and figures an inch tall and placed on the walls of every public school throughout the land, where it might serve as a constant reminder to all school children of the value of the savings habit. Some years ago, before giving serious thought to the value of the savings habit, this author made up an account of the money which had slipped through his fingers. The amount was so alarming that it resulted in the writing of this lesson and adding the habit of saving as one of the 15 laws of success. Following is an itemized statement of this account. $4,000, inherited, invested in automobile supply business with a friend who lost the entire amount in 1 year. $3,600, extra money earned from sundry writing for magazines and newspapers, all spent uselessly. $30,000, earned from training 3,000 salesmen with the aid of the law of success philosophy, invested in a magazine which was not a success because there was no reserve capital back of it. $3,400, extra money earned from public addresses, lectures, etc., all of which was spent as it came in. $6,000, estimated amount that could have been saved during a period of 10 years out of regular earnings at the rate of only $50 a month. Total, $47,000. This amount, had it been saved and invested as received in building and loan associations or in some other manner that would have earned compound interest, would have grown into the sum of $94,000 at the time this lesson is being written. The author is not a victim of any of the usual habits of dissipation, such as gambling, drinking, and excessive entertaining. It is almost unbelievable that a man whose habits of living are reasonably moderate could spend $40,000 within a little over 10 years without having anything to show for the money, but it can be done. A capital reserve of $94,000 working at compound interest is sufficient to give any man all the financial freedom he needs. I recall one occasion when the president of a large corporation sent me a check for $500 for an address I delivered at a banquet given to the employees. And I distinctly recall what went through my mind when I opened the letter and saw the check. I had wanted a new automobile, and this check was exactly the amount required for the first payment. I had it spent before it had been in my hands 30 seconds. Perhaps this is the experience of the majority of people. They think more of how they are going to spend what they have than they do about ways and means of saving. The idea of saving and the self-control and self-sacrifice which must accompany it is always accompanied by thoughts of an unpleasant nature. But oh, how it does thrill one to think of spending. There is a reason for this, and that reason is the fact that most of us have developed the habit of spending while neglecting the habit of saving. And any idea that frequents the human mind but seldom is not as welcome as that which frequents it often. In truth, the habit of saving can be made as fascinating as the habit of spending, but not until it has become a regular, well-grounded, systematic habit. We like to do that which is often repeated, which is but another way of stating what the scientists have discovered, that we are victims of our habits. The habit of saving money requires more force of character than most people have developed, for the reason that saving means self-denial and sacrifice of amusements and pleasures in scores of different ways. For this very reason, one who develops the savings habit acquires at the same time many of the other needed habits which lead to success, especially self-control, self-confidence, courage, poise, and freedom from fear. How much should one save? The first question that will arise is, how much should one save? The answer cannot be given in a few words, for the amount which one should save depends upon many conditions, some of which may be within one's control and some of which may not be. Generally speaking, a man who works for a salary should apportion his income about as follows. Savings account, 20%. Living, clothes, food, and shelter, 50%. Education, 10%. recreation, 10%, life insurance, 10%. The following, however, indicates the approximate distribution which the average man actually makes of his income. Savings account, nothing. Living, clothes, food, and shelter, 60%. Education, 0%. Recreation, 35%. Life insurance, 5%. Under the item of recreation is included, of course, many expenditures that do not really recreate, such as money spent for alcoholic drinks, dinner parties, and other similar items which may actually serve to undermine one's health and destroy character. An experienced analyst of men has stated that he could tell very accurately by examining a man's monthly budget what sort of a life the man is living. Moreover, that he will get most of his information from the one item of recreation. This, then, is an item to be watched as carefully as the greenhouse keeper watches the thermometer which controls the life and death of his plants. Those who keep budget accounts often include an item called entertainment, which in a majority of cases turns out to be an evil because it depletes the income heavily and when carried to excess depletes also the health. We are living right now in an age when the item of entertainment is altogether too high in most budget allowances. Tens of thousands of people who earn not more than $50 a week are spending as much as 1/3 of their incomes for what they call entertainment, which comes in a bottle with a questionable label on it at anywhere from $6 to $12 a quart. Not only are these unwise people wasting the money that should go into a savings fund, but a far greater danger, they are destroying both character and health. Nothing in this lesson is intended as a preachment on morality or on any other subject. We are here dealing with cold facts which, to a large extent, constitute the building materials out of which success may be created. However, this is an appropriate place to state some facts which have such a direct bearing on the subject of achieving success that they cannot be omitted without weakening this entire course in general, and this lesson in particular. The author of this course is not a reformer. Neither is he a preacher on morals, as this field of useful endeavor is quite well covered by others who are able workers. What is here stated, therefore, is intended as a necessary part of a course of philosophy, whose purpose is to mark a safe road over which one may travel to honorable achievement. Every failure, every adversity, every heartache may be a blessing in disguise, provided it softens the animal portion of our nature. Careful analysis of 178 men who are known to be successful disclosed the fact that all had failed many times before arriving. During the year 1926, the author was in partnership with the late Don R. Mellett, who was at that time the publisher of the Canton, Ohio Daily News. Mr. Mellett became interested in the law of success philosophy because it offered, as he believed, sound counsel to young men and young women who really wished to get ahead in life. Through the pages of the Daily News, Mr. Mellett was conducting a fierce battle against the underworld forces of Canton. With the aid of detectives and investigators, some of whom were supplied by the governor of Ohio, Mr. Mellett and the author gathered accurate data concerning the way most of the people in Canton were living. In July 1926, Mr. Mellett was assassinated from ambush, and 4 men, one of them a former member of the Canton police force, are now serving life sentences in the Ohio State Penitentiary for the crime. During the investigation into crime conditions in Canton, all reports came to the author's office, and the data here described are, therefore, known to be absolutely accurate. One of the officials of a large industrial plant, whose salary was $6,000 a year, paid a Canton bootlegger an average of $300 a month for the liquor, if stuff can be called liquor, which he used for entertaining. His wife participated in these entertainments, which took place in his own home. A paying teller in a bank, whose salary was $150 a month, was spending an average of $75 a month for liquor. And in addition to this unpardonable waste of money out of a salary which was none too great at most, he was traveling at a pace and with a crowd which meant ruin for him later on. The superintendent of a large manufacturing plant, whose salary was $5,000 a year, and who should have been saving at least $125 a month, was actually saving nothing. His bootlegger's bill averaged $150 a month. A policeman whose income was $160 a month was spending over $400 a month on dinner parties at a nearby roadhouse. Where he got the difference between his legitimate income and his actual expenditures is a question that reflects no particular credit on the policeman. A bank official whose income, as near as it could be estimated from his previous year's income tax reports, was about $8,000 a year, had a monthly bootlegger's bill of more than $500 during the 3 months that his activities were checked by the Mellet investigators. A young man who worked in a department store at a salary of $20 a week was spending an average of $35 a week with one bootlegger. The assumption was that he was stealing the difference from his employer. Old man trouble awaited this young man just around the corner, although it is not known by the author whether or not the two have come together as yet. A salesman for a life insurance company, whose income was not known because he worked on a commission basis, was spending an average of $200 a month with one bootlegger. No record of any savings account was found, and the assumption is that he had none. This assumption was later confirmed when the company for which the young man worked had him arrested for embezzlement of its funds. No doubt he was spending the money which he should have turned into the company. He is now serving a long sentence in the Ohio State Penitentiary. A young lad who was attending high school was spending large sums for liquor. The actual amount was not obtainable for the reason that he paid cash as he got the liquor, and the bootlegger's records did not therefore disclose the actual amount. Later this boy's parents had him locked up to save him from himself. It was found that he was stealing money from a savings fund kept by his mother, somewhere about the house. He had stolen and spent more than $300 of this money when discovered. This author conducted a lecture bureau in 41 high schools, where he lectured once a month during the entire school season. The principals of these high schools stated that less than 2% of the students showed any tendency toward saving money, and an examination through the aid of a questionnaire prepared for that purpose disclosed the fact that only 5% of the students, out of a total of 11,000 of the high school age, believed that the savings habit was one of the essentials for success. It is no wonder the rich are becoming richer and the poor are becoming poorer.